just to let everyone know. And if, as I mentioned before, if you are joining us now, please make sure to press star 6 to mute yourselves, and when we get to the areas of dialogue, press star 6 again to unmute yourself. And this way we reduce any background noise or things that might happen within our own respective areas. So thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Some other things that some housekeeping I want to share with is that please make sure that if you are to either connect either via audio or via phone, so either to your computer or to your phone, but not both, because if you do so, there might be echo in the background. So you could join the Adobe Room. It's just that picking the option of either dialing in with the number you see in front of you or choosing the computer as an option of audio. And some other housekeeping I wanted to just go over before the community learning starts is how do you ask questions. So if you, during the time when there's going to be dialogue, you could unmute your lines, or you could just type questions or any comments that you might have as our presenter today will be going through. And so just it's right at the bottom of the screen, just something that to share with you. And if you want to just press on the little image of the cloud, and then it would upload the comment to the box. A little bit about the National Council of Urban Indian Health. We are a national membership nonprofit organization devoted to support the development and quality access and cultural competent health services for American Indian Alaska Natives living in urban settings. We have 42 Urban Indian Health Organization members that we support throughout the country, and we also support non-members and folks who live throughout Indian country on various technical assistance and capacity building, such as this community learning. Before I go into introducing our presenter today, I would like to give you a little bit of background on our community learning model. It is a model that's based on knowledge that you as the Urban Indian Health Organization, tribal organization, or non-UIO organization bring as leadership or staff with your best practices and successes to the table to assist others and your own peers. And so we invite you today to provide feedback, to share as you feel, so that we can all grow and learn from each other. And NCUI's Behavioral Health Community Learning Grant Writing Series has provided UIOs and non-UIO leadership, programmatic development staff, grant writing staff with strategies to improve grant writing skills and management skills. The community learning model provides a virtual classroom, as mentioned earlier, of peer support to better address the current challenges we all face and needs that that are faced by UIOs and non-UIOs alike. These challenges vary, and these community learnings are a way to fill that gap and find a way for all of us to support one another. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you Gina Jackson, who is Program Director at Native American in Philanthropy. Gina joined Native Americans in Philanthropy from the National American Indian Court Judges Association. She previously worked for KC Family Programs as an Indian Child Welfare Director, working at the Executive Office of the President on the Community Solutions Team. Ms. Jackson has extensive experience working in tribal justice, tribal-state collaboration, system change for child welfare, both state and tribal levels. She serves as a connector, as an igniter in all of the circles she touches, sharing innovation, cultivating collaboration everywhere she goes, being mindful of cultural differences and striving for equity as a standard in our nation. And so with that being said, I would like to pass the baton on to Gina for her community learning today.
Hello, everyone. Suhaga'ani, Ni'a Nadibina Ya, Gina Jackson, Ni'a Reno, Nevada, Pabanji. I come to you today from Los Angeles, California, where Native Americans in Philanthropy has our headquarters. We are on occupied land of the Tongva Nation, and it's really important for me to acknowledge that. And as we are working with the funders across the nation, we always try to model and ask them to acknowledge that not just the land, but the people of the land that we are on. So I'm very excited that you're able to join us today. I also see that Jeffrey Ross, our interim executive director, is on the line, so I'd like to give him a call out. And I also see that we have some grant partners on the line as well. So wonderful that you're able to join us, and some exciting organizations that I'd love to get to know better. So I'm looking forward to this webinar. It's going to be a very interactive webinar. We'll have lots of questions for you, so look forward to getting to know you a little better. I do see that we have, not everyone has had a chance to log into the chat box where they, who they are, tribal affiliation, if any, and what organizations they are representing. So if you have not had a chance, I'm going to ask that you please do so we can begin to get to know each other and know where one another is located. I'd like to share a little bit of background about Native Americans in Philanthropy, just so you can be a little more familiar with who we are and what we do. Native Americans in Philanthropy has been around for 30 years. We just had our 30th anniversary in Chicago in September. Native Americans in Philanthropy actually began in Chicago. It was a Council on Foundations conference where a small group of Native folks, and we're at this conference. Of course, you know, we always find each other, and there was also a small group of Asian American folks who, again, found each other, and at the conference luncheon ended up sitting together. And with the Native folks and the Asian folks together could not fill a conference table. And those conversations that began at that table were, why don't we have something for us? And where are our voices, you know, in this field of philanthropy? And out of those conversations and, you know, strategic dreaming, visioning, both organizations were launched. Asian Americans in Philanthropy calls that the original table. The folks that developed and founded Native Americans in Philanthropy had some earlier conversations, but that was 30 years ago in Chicago, and hopefully, you know, some of the folks on the line were able to join us for that event. So the bottom line is Native Americans in Philanthropy really wants to see that there's equitable giving, and that means that we, as a population, are not getting equitable giving. So we're being under, if you look at the population of Native folks and the percentage of giving is underrepresented. So really that's our mission as a bottom line. And how we do that is through engaging, educating, and empowering not just philanthropy as a whole, but also the Native nonprofits as well to bring folks together in a way that really can help everyone learn and grow. So one of the ways that we work with the Native nonprofits is through some funding opportunities that NAP has been providing. One of them is Native Voices Rising, and that's a collaboration with the Common Council Foundation, who is here in California, although the funding is national, so it's not just California. And basically, that particular funding stream is focused on supporting organizing, advocacy, and civic engagement. And it's American Indian, Alaska Native, and Native Hawaiian communities that we are looking to support. That fund has been growing at a steady basis. This past year, with us being able to fund $500,000. Now, these are small grants that are given. But the one thing about this grant, and the other one I'm going to tell you about in a moment, is that once you are a grantee or grant partner, it opens up other opportunities. For example, a capacity building series that we did this past year, and we have a new one coming up, that when you participate in this capacity building series through webinars and taking you through ways that you can strengthen your ability to get bigger funding, because we gave the small funding, but we want to see you get the bigger funding. We also can provide some technical assistance through a consultant who will work with your organization on your specific needs. So instead of, just the larger information, if you have a specific need that you need help with, that's what we want to support you on. And then the second funding stream that we do have is Generation Indigenous, the Response Fund, or GenI. And this was inspired actually back when President Obama had visited the Standing Rock tribe and had met with a small group of young Native youth. And when the trip was over, came back to the administration and said, we have to do something for Native youth, and brought together the heads of the departments and said, we need to do something. And so out of that, the Generation Indigenous, the initiative came. But through that, there was also realization that there's some great organizations focused on Native youth, but they need support. And so in the philanthropic sector, Native Americans in philanthropy stepped up and created this fund in collaboration with the Minneapolis Foundation. And so this stream is specific to supporting Native youth, organizing and activism, and we're currently in the grant round right now with some announcements to be coming soon for the awards. So those are two of the ways that we support the nonprofits. We also do other things like funders tours, and we have events that we have regionally, as well as one event that is our big event every 2 years. And in 2020, that's going to be our National Philanthropy Institute. Now, that event is a funder-only event, but we will be doing an RFP to invite the Native organizations to come and present and to be able to, show funders what they're doing and begin to develop, those contacts and relationships. And so we're really excited about that. That'll be coming up soon. In the next month, we'll be announcing the call for proposals with the event happening this fall. And more information will be coming soon. So I'm excited to share about that. For today, we have, for this webinar in this community of learning, we're going to be talking about 5 major areas. So one, some Philanthropy 101, and the tribal perspectives, and how do those meet? How do we reconcile 2 perspectives in a way that's benefiting both? How understanding funders and the funding landscape. In working with funders, we have some insights. I'd like to share some of those private conversations that funders have when they have, an opportunity, so that you are informed and you can be thinking about ways and strategies to communicate. So how do you get ready, and how do you prepare to engage funders? Because preparation is a really important part of the plan to do that. So being strategic, what are your goals? What do you need to do to be ready, and what kind of actions will be help you be successful in engaging funders? Also, some tips with communication. We're going to talk about ways to utilize technology, tools, and then finally, integrity. As Native people, as Indigenous people, it's all about our values. And we, even though there's a lot of great funding out there, we want to make sure that we're sticking to our values and doing things in a genuine way, and really building relationships. So that's the overview of what we'll be talking about today. So let's jump in with Philanthropy 101. So this is just going to be a very brief overview, but the word philanthropy comes from the Greek, with philos meaning loving, anthropos meaning humankind, and philanthropos meaning loving humankind. And one of the things that we talk about as Native people or Indigenous people is reciprocity. And when we're even doing the funding streams, and when we are working with funders across the nation, this is something that folks are always looking to have, is the exchange for mutual benefit. And so we get funders who are always wanting to learn about the processes, learn about how we are funding, and what are we learning from the organizations that they are funding, so that funding can be done in a way that is really making a difference. Ultimately, it's an investment, and they want to make the wisest investments. And so reciprocity is not just from the past and the way that, so many people, tribal folks, have operated, but it's also something that's current, and that folks and funders really are looking to have some kind of mutual benefit. So when we think about our traditions, because we do have to look at the differences between the way our types of thinking, Native traditions, and also, the funders today, and because there needs to be some reconciliation there. Our approach has been, to giving to community, reciprocity is also, an honor, to honor somebody with a gift, honoring relatives, honoring folks who have accomplishments, honoring folks in the community. Many times we honor folks depending on specific ceremonies, coming of age ceremonies, and then also to the youth and the children, the new generations, really looking to pass on resources and knowledge, and even the ways that we honor folks. And one of the things that is so important that we need to completely own is that who we are and our values, our time, our talent, and treasure is important. So many times, we have our Native lens, but we have to operate within, another world where that lens isn't always appreciated. but it is the way that we are going to be able to, show, who we are in our lens. A lot of times funders, especially in the past, have set out guidelines of how they will operate. And then, expectations are how will everyone fit into that. And what NAP has been educating funders about is that the folks that are in the community, they need to lead the way. The folks that are dealing with the issues, they have the solution and need to be supported. So the time, the talent, the lens, those are really important treasures that really need to be appreciated and empower folks to have those solutions and not look to the outside, but know that we have the answers internally. So where does philanthropic funding come from? Well, across the nation, there's lots of different regions that may have a different spin on that. A lot of times it's from business. When I was with Casey Family Programs, Jim Casey was the creator of UPS, and out of his legacy, 5 foundations were formed. Some other foundations or wealth was developed out of investment. A lot of wealth has come from the land, water resources, minerals, agriculture, and even wealth accumulated through slavery or of like the agriculture of the land. So one of the things, so we've been talking about this, and you probably have been talking and thinking about this for a long time. But just in the past couple of years, I feel like this has been an area that folks are becoming more aware of and more ready to start having those conversations. And the president of our board, Edgar Villanueva, wrote a book called Decolonizing Wealth. And this has really been a groundbreaking book because it's talking about conversations that we're holding like individually or even as groups. But after this book has come out, it's gone, national, even global, to where we're starting to have those conversations on a bigger level, where we can start to face the reality of where did the wealth of this country come from. And if it was from land and water resources, whose land and water resources were those? And so many times, too, when we're looking at the wealth, the amount that comes back to the folks that it was originally the land and resource belonged to, they're not seeing those dollars. And so these are important things for us to think about. It's an area that NAP has been educating philanthropy about in the last year through our Truth and Healing movement, where we're asking folks to take a challenge to learn the history from an indigenous perspective, the things that they didn't learn in school, or maybe pieces of it, but not ever strung together in a way that folks can really have that deeper understanding. We've been using Truth and Healing circles, the blanket exercise. Currently, we've worked with over 2,000 people just this year, and it is making a difference when it comes to funders. At least what we're hearing is folks, especially in leadership, are saying that they've never experienced something like this before, and that they want to do something. They want to take new actions. And we do have a research arm that's a part of that, but we don't have all the data collected yet, but we're in process of that. So more to come. So my question is, and I see we have folks from all over Alaska. We have folks from Nevada. We have folks in California. But in your region, where does the wealth come from? And so you'll see that a pop-up box just came onto the screen. And if you could type in, we'll be able to kind of get a temperature check of where wealth in your region is coming from. Being from northern Nevada, one of the areas, I mean, there's some new businesses that have come in the last decade, like Tesla and Amazon, but, you know, classically it's been our casinos in Nevada that the great wealth has come, you know, from. And folks are often surprised when they learn that that the tribes do not have casinos in Nevada. And because that's a stereotype, right? The rich tribal casinos, you know, free paychecks. They don't really need money. But in Nevada, none of the tribes have gaming or no casinos. So as the poll is going on, you can see that we have farming, tech, fishing and natural resources, land, casinos, accomplishments, agriculture, the Mississippi River, stolen land, mining, food, university, lumber, privileges. So yes, those are areas. And I asked this question too, also just so that it's on the top of our minds, you know, in your region, where is this wealth coming from? Okay, so let's go to the next slide. I'm going to close this down. There we go. Whoops. So what's the status? What does funding look like for Native populations from the 2006 to the present? Well, right now, most of the philanthropic funding, or all of the philanthropic funding from the U.S. foundations, only 0.4% is directed to Native communities. So population in last census were around 2% of the population. This next census is anticipated that we will be 3, but 0.4 is way underfunded. And one of the things that we've been, you know, talking about for a long time is why. Why are Native communities being underfunded to this point? And part of it could be like lack of information, invisibility. It could be stereotypes again, thinking that you know, the tribes that are out there are rich tribes and everybody gets a paycheck, and it's not necessarily needed. It could also, you know, so there's a lot of reasons that we have, you know, heard that there could be this for the underfunding. Some of the things that we've seen, like firsthand, is that visibility isn't always there for the Native organizations, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. But the bottom line is we are underfunded as a population. So how do we bridge that gap? There's learning for everybody, big learning curves for everybody. You know, how do we understand each other? You know, we come with indigenous, Native values, you know, generosity, genuineness, respect. But how do we communicate with funders? How do we learn to speak the same language? And how do we get ready? So those are going to be some of the things that we're going to talk about throughout this session. And give you some tips and tools on how to get ready and how to communicate. But first, I want to ask this question. How visible is the work you're looking to get funded? On a scale of 1 to 5, with 1 being not really visible at all and 5 being extremely visible, how visible is the work you're looking to get funded? And as you're thinking about this and you're doing the poll, let me just share this story. We had a call. This is actually kind of a common thing. This is not an unusual thing. But we had a call from a funder who was looking to fund in North Dakota, South Dakota, or Minnesota, one of those states. They wanted to, do some support for Native youth. And the funder advisor had given me a call, and he was saying, I did some Google searching, and I really didn't find any Native nonprofits to fund. And I was just shocked. That's just completely, insane that he's not finding folks to fund by doing searches. And so, it really is important that can funders find you? Can people who want to support your work find you easily? And I think that's something that, Native nonprofits need to think about, because if they can't find you easily, they can move on. One of the things about philanthropy and working with funders, it can move very fast, and if folks are often looking for, things to be delivered, on a silver platter, let's say. Like it's easy, here are opportunities to fund, there's not a lot of hoops to jump through, here it is. And if it's really hard for them to find, folks, then they move on. And, that's an unfortunate reality. And so being ready is super critical, and being visible as well. So you can see on the poll, we had 65% of people on the call feel like they're somewhat visible, and only 5% of the folks on the call feel like their work that they're looking to get funded is extremely visible. So it would be awesome if we could flip those numbers and have the 65% be extremely visible. So if you chose one of the lower, on the lower side of the scale, as we go through this webinar, be thinking about ways, how can you become more visible? Because this is a really important strategy that you'll need to be looking to problem solve around. Okay, I have another question for you. So being able to find you, being visible is one thing, and whether that's, being visible in your communities, whether that's doing, workshops and sessions, attending conferences, or events where funders are at. So when you do attend, or when you do, get out there into the philanthropic field to network, one of the questions is, how strong are your networking skills? So on a scale of 1 to 5, and with 1 being not very strong at all, and 5 being extremely strong, how strong are your networking skills? So it looks like folks are answering already, and I don't know if we have everybody answered yet, but if you have not, think about it a moment. How strong are your networking skills? Because that would be another thing on your list to look at. How do you strengthen those skills? What are opportunities to do that? And it looks like we have 4.5% of the people on the webinar today feel very strong, confident in their strength for networking. Only 18% said very strong, and 3%, almost 30% feel like they're pretty strong, and 9% said not strong at all. So again, I feel like everybody has identified that they could use some help in that area. And we'll talk more about ways that you can do that. All right. So let's see here. So one of the things that we want to talk about next is understanding the funder motivation. And I mentioned before that, as funders, they're looking to be good stewards, investing into things that are going to make a difference. And so learning about what their vision is, well, first, I guess, really getting succinct about what your vision is. And looking to funders that where vision, interests can align. And this is like the picture is the stars aligning. And like I mentioned before, investing into the impact is really what funders are looking to do. How is this making a difference? You know, what kind of results will their investment bring? Are there promising practices that are going to emerge because of this? And really, funders want to be able to trust with the investments they're giving that you're going to be able to deliver. And having those relationships are critical. It's really everything. And looking to see are there partnerships that are emerging? Or are you in partnership with other organizations? How are you collaborating? So those are certain things that, you know, funders are going to be thinking about. Are there population targets that you're looking at that they are also interested in? One of the things that we've seen in some of our grant applications through the two different funding streams, we've seen some applications who, and we understand, you know, looking to private and foundation funding, there's a lot more flexibility. And ideally, some of the funding is very unrestricted in the sense that, you know, you have freedom to be able to utilize it in ways that, you know, are specific to your needs and have supporting your work in general, but not necessarily having some really stringent deliverables like the federal funding often has. But we had in this last grant round, we had some applications who were just some organizations who were doing fabulous work, but what they were asking for was food and hotel rooms and, you know, things like reimbursement for, you know, travel, that type of thing. And while, you know, those are really important things and, you know, we love to make sure everybody's, you know, getting basic needs like, you know, food and, you know, shelter for going to meetings, those types of things done. When folks are asking, when funders are looking to fund, how is that making a difference? That's always a question. And how is that making a lasting impact by providing, you know, food or gas or reimbursement? So when folks are asking if they're leading with the work, of course, that's going to be the strength. That's going to be what shines, what folks are interested in supporting. So let me just ask you another question. What motivates you to give personally? I know that a lot of folks just came back from spending time with family and loved ones, friends, relatives, many times back in their communities if they're, you know, in cities right now. And I know for, you know, for all of us probably on this call right now, we all probably have some pretty good jobs and have some pretty good education. And, you know, that's not always the case with all of the family members or relatives, you know, and maybe folks were asked just even over the holidays for loans or, you know, for money to, you know, to help folks out. And I see people answering right now. I know I was one of them. I got asked for money for loans, and of course I'm going to help my family, but, you know, I know it was only one person who was asking, but what if you have a whole room of everyone who's asking? How do you sort through? How do you decide, you know, to be able to, you know, if you can't meet all the needs, what inspires you, you know, to pick and choose? So some of the answers we have are just helping in general, believing in the cause, let's see here, building equity, equality, personal connection, impact, youth leaders, the creator projects or organizations that are focusing on helping the community as a whole. So those are all some of the cool answers that inspire you and motivate you to give. Let's talk about funders. So I wanted to share some of the internal conversations we hear within philanthropy. So this year, coming up, we have our National Philanthropy Institute 2020. And that is, we like to create a safe space for funders. So there's no solicitation. There's no nonprofits that are registering to attend the event, only as like presenters. But we want to give them a place where they're not being solicited, where they can go and learn, they can network, they're in this supportive environment, learning environment where they can ask questions that they may not necessarily feel comfortable asking, in mixed groups. And, this is a chance for them to, really learn and support one another. But as they're doing that, they're also, talking, especially, at this conference about Native communities. And so one of the questions that philanthropy always wants to know, like the foundation question, is what does the research show about this issue, whatever this issue is? Well, we know in Native communities, number one, we may not have a lot of research to show on specific issues. Not only has there not been a lot of, research on the research that has been done, sometimes it's not done, many times it's not done, like by the people, by the Native folks, for the Native folks, but it's about the Native folks. A lot of times we are not included in studies where we could have been included. When I was working at the White House, was so proud of a lot of the great things that were happening in regards to tribes, like the Tribal Nations gathering that was happening every year, just a lot of really great things. And I remember one of the reports that came out did not include Native people, and I was with a researcher, and I asked him about it. I'm like, why? I'm like, we're like so happy and so proud, like we made so much progress, and then here we're left out again. And he said, well, you guys as a population are statistically insignificant. And, that's not the first time I've heard that. You probably heard that as well. But my response was, well, statistically, we were 100% at one point in time. And if we are insignificant at this time, why are we statistically insignificant? And if it's because of actions that have led to genocide of our people, purposefully and non-purposefully, are you okay with leaving us out? And, most people are not. But, those are conversations that we have to talk about that may not have been talked about in the past. So philanthropy is always looking to see, what is the research. One of the things that Native Americans in Philanthropy did, and this is really out of the Generation Indigenous initiative, was a study, a research project focused on the Indigenous life course of Native youth, so strengthening the health and well-being of Native youth. But one of my favorite things that came out of this was the 7 most significant protective factors of Native youth, families, and communities. And so many times other groups will focus on the deficits of our communities, the deficits of our young people. And this is one of the first research projects that I saw that actually focused on the protective factors, the strengths of our people. So things like acknowledging that cultural connection and connectiveness is important, family connectedness, community control, spirituality and ceremony, extended kin bonds and networks, healthy traditional food, and youth self-efficacy. And so, NAP is a small organization bringing together, a small group of Indigenous scholars to create this. We're able to create and give, information and knowledge from an Indigenous lens to the philanthropic field that focuses on assets for the first time I've ever seen. And so my question is, what can you do? So keep that in the back of your hat. But other conversations that are heard within funder-only spaces. They're wanting to know, is this organization, what kind of vision do they have? Is it big? Are they looking at just doing an event? We want to support this one event, or are they trying to make lasting change? Because again, as good stewards of the dollars they have, they want to see impact. And how is that going to make a difference in the long run? So those are things that we hear, but those are also things that we want you to be asking yourself, so that you're ready to be able to have those types of answers when you are talking with funders. All right, we're going to move on to the landscape of philanthropy, and like, who are those funders? How are they funding? What are they funding? One of the things that was one of the, I guess, proud accomplishments that Native Americans in Philanthropy has done is, and this took years, probably is 3 to 5 years from visioning to fundraising to actually building out and making this happen. And it's a multi-content web portal that is able to scan funding through Candid, which is our partner on this, who helped us build this, and be able to see where the funding has come from. Now, of course, the data is not perfect. There are some areas that we're going to be learning and growing and trying to build, and one of those areas is tribal philanthropy. So, tribes and sovereign nations do not necessarily have to report, and some do, some don't, and so that data is an area that we're working on strengthening by engaging tribal philanthropy and bringing those folks together and helping them problem solve what they think is the best approach to do this. So the next few slides are screenshots of our website. But please go when you have a chance to nativephilanthropy.candid.org, bookmark it, and if you haven't had a chance to explore, please do so. We start off with Native 101 because that's always one of the barriers we hear over and over and over and over. If you have a chance to talk to the funder, a lot of times it's the first part, 90% of the talk is about educating them about your tribe, about your community. There's stereotypes. There's lack of understanding. And so we wanted to give a place for funders to go and learn some of this, basic information. What's the history? What are the, regions? What are some of the major events? We wanted to share that. We also have a funding map, and I'm going to show you that next. A section for resources and, ways to be involved. We have specific topic areas that you can scroll down and get information on. So the one I chose to show us for today is health, since this webinar is being hosted by NCUE. I thought health would be a good area. But let's go to the funding map first. So here we go. The funding map, this is going to be a place where folks can be able to see where grantees, partners is working in specific areas of interest. And as you drill down, you can it opens up into more and deeper information. Let's see here. So we can see, in this particular map, who are the recipients of grants. And sorry, Alaska got cut off of my screenshot. I'd have to pull it down to be able to see. And so almost 40,000 grants equaling $2.2 billion. The funders who have given 4,700 funders to almost 4,000 grant recipients. And again, when you click down, you can scroll a little deeper. And I'm just giving you a quick overview. I want you to be able to, see that some of the capabilities of this online web portal tool, and then you'll have a chance to, in your spare time, go through and dig deeper. And at the end, I'll share, I have my contact information. You can feel free to send questions, and we can work together with Candid, who helped us build this, to get any specific questions answered. So we go back to the home page. I'm going to scroll down to health. So for health, in this particular section, we have some data, just kind of some general information, some quotes. One that really kind of got to me is the last box, that 23% of the Native Americans reported experiencing discrimination when going to a doctor or health clinic. We all probably have our own stories, maybe not just our own self, but other family members. I do with my own grandmother, which, is very sad and hard. I mean, we have discrimination everywhere, but it's hard when it comes to, health, and especially for us who are working in, increasing the health and wellness for our communities. That's a hard one to have to see and have to hear. So who's funding health? So for this particular one, I clicked health. It's drilling us down to the funders. So when we look at the top funders, and let's see here. Okay, here we go. You can see on the screen that, and this is, so we're looking at a national level. We have the Robert Woods Johnson as one of the top funders with $94.6 million. W.K. Kellogg Foundation, Alaska Native Tribal Health Consortium about $30 million. That's kind of good to see. The California Endowment at $27.6 million. I'm actually here in the California Endowment building. We have rented space in this building. So you can kind of just scroll down and see who those, some of the top funders are. I'm going to take you to another page. It goes on. Kresge Foundation, and it shows how much they're giving. And so these are just, screenshots and examples of what you can do to learn more about who's funding in your particular area. And like again, I said I chose health for this particular section. Also, we can click on fund recipients. So we have the top tab that we just looked at was funders. Now we can go into recipients. Well, like who's getting the health-related funding? Well, one of the top groups is Asian and Pacific Islander American Health Forum in Oakland, California, with $32.3 million. My question is anybody partnering? Do we have any Native-focused nonprofits partnering with them? And if not, why not? Now we know who's getting a lot of funding. What are they doing specific to Native populations? We can learn more. So this is just a way to kind of see who is getting funding and look for opportunities. Maybe you have connections already, to some of these groups. Notah Gay Foundation. Is there something that your organization would love to partner with them to do to get even bigger funding? So that's just one of the ways that you can learn more about the funding landscape. Okay, here's a question for you. Can you name the top 10 funders in your either service, geographical, or focus area? So this is going to be on a scale of 1 to 10.
Before we go on, there was a question that was asked by a participant who asked who was the group that was mentioned, the recipient was mentioned in Oakland that gets the most funding. Just I guess just clarifying because they didn't hear it.
Okay, so I just scrolled back to one page, and so it's the Asian and Pacific Islander American Health Forum. And again, for you to be able to, really, take some time with this information, it's going back to nativephilanthropy.candid.org, and then the website will come up, and then you go to the health. For this particular one, it was health, because we're looking at the health focus. And then it takes you to the funders. The funders will be the first tab. The second tab will be recipients. We could go to the grant tab and learn how much, what the grants are like, and then also contacts, like websites and social media contacts for not just the funders, but for grantees as well. So the multi-contact web portal will have more information, but I just scrolled back just to answer your question, so you can see that. Okay, now your turn. Can you name the top 10 funders in your service area, geographical area, focus area? Oh, that's the wrong question. And so the scale will be 1 to 10. So if you can name all 10, then you're going to put in 10. You can name 2, you can put in 2. So I'll bring the poll up to you just a second.
One moment, sorry.
And as you're thinking about, who can you name in your area? If you can't name the top 10, then that's something to put on your to-do list. It's finding out who those top 10 are in your focus area, your service area or region. Who do you need to have in your radar if you can't name them right now? All right. Folks are answering as we speak. It looks like the majority of folks could name 4, which is good. We didn't have anyone who answered who could name the top 10. So it looks like, the majority of folks can name a few. But I would encourage you that, this is something that we want to have if you want to seek funding, and we're being strategic about our actions and our plans, that you can utilize our web portal to find out who those 10 are. And once you find out, let's figure out how are you going to get them to know who you are and what work you're doing. So how can you meet with them, basically? So this is a very similar question. So naming them is one thing, knowing who they are as a foundation or a private funder, but have you actually got a chance to meet the funders in your area? And as our people are answering, it looks like the majority of people have met or know 2 or 3 of them, which is very good. But what if you could light this up and you were able to not just name, but say that you have met or know the top 10? What would your funding look like? Hopefully much better. So thank you for answering. All this is going to be on your plan, your strategy, what you need to do to engage funders. All right, so now we're going to talk about the planning and prep. First question is, what have been some successful ways you've engaged funders? And here's where we're going to open up the conversation to hear from you. And we'll bring the poll to you in just a moment.
And for folks who want to have more dialogue and don't want to type in the responses, you could press *6 to unmute yourself and just share with everyone in the room if that's something that you would like to do as well.
Yeah, it'd be fabulous to hear from some folks. So please feel free to unmute your line so we can have some conversation about this. So the follow-up question is, well, how successful were those ways? So some of the answers that we're getting in so far are through community events, fundraising, social media, through letters, video production, check-in calls, reports and community events, inviting them to be a part of it all, business meetings, by sharing data, presentations, inviting them to visit the programs that they've funded, and inviting them to see the program in action. All great ways. All right. Okay. So we can go ahead and close this poll for the moment. And so, you know, all of those ways that you listed are great strategies. One of the things that I kind of seen as an underlying theme is a lot of those are about relationship building. When you invite folks to be a part of those conversations, to meet with folks, to see, you know, what the impact has been, being in front of folks, you know, so applying for, you know, to present, you know, at their conferences, inviting them to meetings specifically. So those are all great ways, as well as social media and using tools. But, you know, meeting somebody is great, but also, you know, the tools and which ways that you can nurture those relationships, those are also key. If you meet somebody one time, you know, that's probably not enough. It's that engagement on an ongoing basis. But before we go there, let's talk about the tools you've used. So we're going to bring up that poll right now and ask you to share. Oh, there we go. And it's probably really similar to the question that we just asked. So if there's anything else that you haven't used, we want to make sure that we're sharing with everyone. So you can see what has been helpful, successful, winning ways, social media. And that goes back to visibility, you know. If the funder is calling us because they can't find anybody in your region, you know, they need to find you. And of course, videos. And back to the web portal, I wanted to share some videos, but I didn't want the website to crash either. And Adobe, you know, I want to make sure that it was solid. But please take some time to go check out some of those videos. Some really great stuff. one-on-one. You know, especially one of the things when we're traveling, we're in a place where we know we have some funders. We always try to set up meetings. You know, can we have an introductory meeting? Can we have, you know, an update meeting? Can we, you know, have a coffee meeting? Just again to nurture those relationships and be able to, you know, sit face to face and to talk about what we're doing and ways that, you know, that folks can be supportive, and also to, you know, share the stories of success that, you know, you're doing. One of the things too, like even though I mentioned those two funding streams, we always appreciate when folks don't fall within those criteria, we still would love to know, because sometimes we get calls from folks that might want to fund exactly what you're doing, but if we don't know about it, we can't, you know, forward that on because we just don't know about it. So I always welcome, you know, sharing of information so that we can pass that along to others. All right. Be passionate. I love that one. Thank you for whoever put that one in. Absolutely. People want folks to know that you're passionate about what you're doing in your work. All right, we're going to go ahead and close that poll now, and then go ahead and move on to the next slide. So, you know, back to that question, those top funders, you know, who are you targeting to engage? That needs to be a part of your plan. Once you have, you know, the idea of who you want to engage, research them. You know, what is their vision? What does their giving look like? You know, where does your vision and their vision align? And then get ready. So do you have a written plan? Do you have, you know, goals very specific to what you're looking to get funded? You know, what is your bigger aspiration to make a difference in the long run? Are those things succinct and easy to digest for somebody who is not familiar with you? So this is a really important part of getting ready. Do you have a written elevator speech? So you have 1.5 minutes to talk to somebody. What are you able to convey? Do you have talking points, written and talking points that you have not just, you know, shared written for your leadership or whoever's doing fundraising or development, but does everyone have that? You know, everyone in your organization know what those talking points are? Do you have, you know, a one-pager that you could share, something easy? You know, a lot of times folks will want to send, you know, pages and pages and pages of information. And a lot of times funders may, you know, everybody's busy, right? Everybody's busy. They may not have a chance to read through, but you have, you know, a one-pager that just gives the gist of who you are, and that is most likely to be read. So the poll is up. You have a written elevator speech or talking point. Let's see how you guys are as far as being ready. And then along with that poll is, do you have the one-pager? All right. Well, for the first poll, we have 66% of folks actually do have a written elevator speech. So awesome. That's great. We also have 33% who don't have one yet. So for the folks who don't have one yet, time to get started. For the folks who do, you know, keep evolving it. You know, run it by folks. Is it the best it can be? Does it reflect the new exciting work that you're also doing? Same thing with one-pager. If you haven't started one, that's on your to-do list, is something easily shared. And maybe the one-pager will take them to your website. Do you have a website? Do you have, you know, a media that will help folks learn, help funders specifically learn about who you are and what you're doing, and be able to find you and to bring funding to the work that you're doing? So thank you guys for participating in those. Good to see. All right. So as we're moving on to communication planning, it's really important to think about how we're framing the message. One of the things that we've seen is that it's important. Folks, funders, again, they're investing. They're investing in you and your work and your community. And when you lead with the awesomeness that you are and you're doing, that captures attention. If you're leading with, we're so destitute, we're almost going under, we need $500,000 to help us stay afloat, that's not as exciting, or it doesn't capture folks' attention to invest in you just to keep you afloat, versus we are going to change the way things are being done in this community because of this work. That's what captures attention. So when you're thinking about, your one-pager, or reading through, reviewing, and even your communications in social media, make sure you're leading with the great things you are doing. And as you're structuring, those communications and statements, it's not that we don't want to say we need $500,000. Yes, we need $500,000. I mean, that's the reality. And maybe we need that $500,000 to stay afloat. I mean, that's a reality. But if we're telling folks that they invest in our work, how we're making a difference, that is what captures folks' attention. And so I didn't ask this as a poll, but I'm going to ask you, do you have letters of inquiry already drafted? Are you ready to go? And if not, again, that's something that you want to start preparing for. Do you have the technology resources? Back to that visibility, does your organization have not just Facebook, like Instagram? Are you on Twitter? Are you being present? Are you, showing the world that you're here and what you're doing? And if not, then consider putting that into your visioning and planning of how we could be more visible and how we could be more present to show, what we're doing and get folks excited about wanting to invest in what you're doing. Here's a question for you. So did you do Giving Tuesday this past year? I'll put that as a poll. I'm kind of interested. All right, looks like it's 50-50. Can you move the poll up? Thank you. A lot of folks are doing, choosing organizations to support for their birthdays. Those a lot of times are small amounts, but, in some cases they're not so small. So online giving, does your website have a button that folks, again, silver platter, make it easy as possible for folks to give? Is there a button on your website to push, for funders to push to be able to fund you? That's the question. If you don't have that button, I would consider getting that. So there's lots of different technologies that you can use, to strengthen your visibility, your availability to be funded. What other tools have you used? So can we take away the Giving Tuesday poll? So as you're thinking about what you've done so far, Give Lively was one of the first ones that came up. Community Care Closet. Oh, what's going on, Jeff? Okay, so CrowdRise, run, sign up website. Thank you for giving us the web address as well so folks can look that up. Venmo, yeah, that's becoming more popular. PayPal, another one, becoming more popular. But this is something for you to consider is how easy is it for funders to be giving you money? And if it's hard, if it's not easy, what can you do to make it easy for them? So for this particular one, we only had 6 answers. So that kind of shows me that this is an area I think that a lot of folks can, explore and, take some chances, see what works for you, see what some of the possibilities are. Oh, here's another one. Give, click, and give. Lots of PDF program. So great. Thank you all for sharing. Okay, so we're going to communicate, we're going to shine, we're going to show, we're going to lead with strengths. We're going to use whatever tools we can to find ways to make things easy for funders to fund us. But as we're doing all that, we also need to be thinking of evaluation. And evaluation was the ultimate goal of keeping your eye on future funding, right? Showing what's working so that we can, change what we're doing to make it work better always. And then also be able to share that data to be able to get bigger funding ultimately. So, so this should be part of that planning as you're going through and we're looking at the engaging, even the one-pager and the visioning, with your goals and what you want to do, you want to keep it really, doable, simple. You want success for sure. Creating wiggle room for you as well. A lot of times when you see opportunities for private and foundation funding, it's really up to you what you're going to say you're going to do. And be sure to create some flexibility within that so that it's, you're able to accomplish all that you can do. And then be sure to loop back with the data to share with them, how you did. It doesn't have to be necessarily wait for the end of the year report. Feel free to share updates of how you're doing. Folks are really excited about, knowing that their investment was a wise investment and knowing that what they've given has helped make a difference. And ultimately, wanting to help them to continue to invest. And then also, too, within the field of philanthropy, there's so many nuances. And, the relationships, not just between, funders and the grant partners, but, also among the funders themselves. They will be talking about you. They'll be talking about you when they come together about investing. And, there may be some referrals. There may be some foundations and private funders who maybe you don't fit right. It's not a perfect fit within, what you're doing and what they're funding at this point. But they might know somebody who it is a perfect fit, And so, really being mindful that, relationships are so important. And even asking, if it doesn't fit, if they know anybody who it might be a good fit for. So, this slide is about integrity and ethics and fundraising. And really, I think it's staying true to our own values and, who we are. One of the words that just makes me cringe all the time is schmoozing. Sometimes you hear people, I'm going to go schmooze. But, if you're going into schmooze, that's one thing. But if you're going in to build real relationships, those are the things that are going to have the biggest payoff. Especially, again, back to that example, if what the funder that you're talking to, it doesn't, the stars don't align. They probably know, other folks where it will. But if you have a relationship with that with that funder and you are able to ask, they may be able to connect you. You know, I mean, so many doors can open from just having, you know, a good relationship, respectful communication, you know, with folks who are in the field, and making sure that you're, you know, giving thanks to them and honoring them whenever possible, keeping that communication up, but staying true to your own values, and making sure that it's not just chasing the dollar, but you're, you know, you're doing the work that you truly value and that's truly important to you and your organization, and not overpromising. And if things need to change, communicating, you know, well with them and early on that, you know, that things need to change, and that, and in most instances, you know, funders really want to see your success. And if there needs to be some change of course, then for the most part, funders will support that. All right. So now, as we wrap up the slide portion and go into some Q&A, I want to first, you know, ask if there's any questions that came up as we're going through this, and then you see the questions on the screen as well. Okay, so we do have some questions. It looks like Lila has asked us, for us to share the report that I mentioned. It's the Indigenous Life Course, Strengthening the Health and Well-Being of Native Youth. I can go ahead and share that right now with you. It's on our website. Actually, I'm going to probably just type in our general website, and if you look at the section regarding Native youth, then you will be able to find the report. We have another question that came up, and so this one is from Becky. What is your advice about who to approach to get funding to do the initial startup for a 501c3? By that I mean fee for applying for a computer. Whoops. I need to see the rest of the question. Let's see here. So really initial basic startup. I would go back to, you know, thinking about your work and what you're doing. A lot of the grants that we see are supporting, like a lot of, okay, so funders, we often see funders, you know, see good work and want to be supportive in general, and they will offer like kind of a get to know you grant. But if you're starting at the place where you don't even have the computer yet, really early on, I would go back to the website, to the region, to the funders that are in your region that are related to your area of focus, and you know, see who you can identify, and see if you can get a meeting, and just to introduce yourself and what you're visioning. You know, those small get to know you grants are usually around $20,000-$25,000, but that's a good place to start. You know, as folks, especially as funders, are getting to know you and you're starting to have visible presence, you know, it's really amazing when they start identifying you and you're not applying for funding, but they come to you to offer funding. So, again, that visibility is critical. Right. Any other questions?
For folks on the line, our community learning is still going on, and there is important updates that we'll be providing in the next slide for other community learning opportunities. So just don't leave yet. Just FYI.
Okay, great. All right. So folks are saying that their biggest takeaway was being able to identify and name those funders, have that elevator speech ready and distribute. So everybody's on the same page, literally exploring our website. It is a long process. And And it is a learning curve, but that's okay because, you know, if you start now, you're making progress already. And again, relationship. Everything is about relationship. And if you have, colleague organizations that have contacts who'd be willing to invite you to meetings, collaborations, you're seeing who some of those grantees are in your region. Go and ask to meet with them. What work are they doing? Do the stars align with supporting one another? Are there new things that you guys can dream of and create together to get, funded or new funding or bigger funding? So thank you for answering about the biggest takeaways. The next question is, what other things would you like to learn more about? And as I mentioned, those two funding streams and the opportunities that come up once you are a grant partner, I would encourage you to keep your eye out for other opportunities. We usually have our Native Voices Rising late summer or midsummer, and then the other funding is usually late fall. So you have a few months to be thinking about, what kind of projects or programs you're trying to get funded. We would love to have you as part of one of the grantee cohorts to be able to offer additional services and support to you. Okay, so I see that somebody was looking for creating a strong strategic plan. So, when it comes to strategic plan, I mean, most people think of the bigger vision of the whole organization, and a lot of folks bring in, facilitators, to do that. But when I'm talking about strategic plan here, I'm talking about, your leadership, maybe staff coming together and just making a plan based on strategic thinking. So it's not going to be necessarily a fill-in-the-box kind of format, but for example, if you're in Northern California, and some of the things that could be on your list is, am I visible? Am I applying to be in front of funders that are in my region? Am I attending events that funders go to? When we had our regional summit this year, we had somebody come all the way from Kona, Hawaii, and he was on the fence about it. We were talking about it, and tickets are really expensive. It was like probably over $1,000, but I encouraged him, come. And honestly, it was really worth his time because he was able to get in front of funders and get support that was probably 60 times the expense that he had to invest up front. And so, so as far as that goes, the strategic thinking is like, what's the strategy specific to you in the area that you're trying to get funded? Let's see here. Is there a way that Native country could somehow share resources better? Yeah, that's a really good question. I think having these community of learning sessions is one good way, and then, being willing to share, getting to, again, back to relationships, getting to know your partners within your region, who's doing similar work, who's doing work that can dovetail, so really getting to develop those relationships, attending events and meeting folks. And then, how to start a nonprofit. So that's a really, basic one. Let me see if there's any other. Oh, thank you for opening up that. Let's see here. Is there a way that Native country can, okay, so also, what do funders want to hear from funders themselves? Or can we have them as guest speakers? What has worked for other organizations? Is there a key formula? So I would say the key formula is develop relationships. And how do you do that? Any way possible. So inviting them as guest speakers, absolutely, that's a great strategy. Applying to be a speaker in front of them, absolutely, that's a great strategy. But whatever you can do to develop those relationships. And of course, once they learn that you're doing amazing work, they're going to want to support you, even if they can't support you out of their own funding stream. being able to network and to share, like, oh, this group is doing some great work. Or that person who called me and said, I can't find any organizations in Minnesota. I'm selling my chair. Like, because the visibility, needs to be there. All right. Then let's see here. We have, what would your next step? There's all over the web pages. So the two websites would be the nativephilanthropy.org, which will have the reports. It will have lots of links and resources. And then as far as the funding landscape, you're going to find that at nativephilanthropy.candid.org. And that's going to be the one where you can drill down and learn about your own region. And I sure hope somebody is going to, take some time to meet with the folks in Oakland, because, they're getting a lot of bucks. And we'd love to make sure that, the Native nonprofits are partnering with them to ensure that the Native populations are seeing those dollars as well.
Yeah, and I put the website on there, the Native philanthropycandid.org. I provided it in the chat box just for folks. And there will be a video, a recording later that will be provided on this, and the PowerPoint presentation. So you'll have this as a resource as well.
Great, thank you. So, please join Native Americans in Philanthropy as an organization if you can. If we have lots of different levels from, affiliate, philanthropic, Native nonprofit, lots of different levels. But if you're not able to do that, please at least sign up for the newsletter, and that's on our website as well, so that you're starting to getting the announcements, you're getting the news of what's happening. And back to those top 10, sign up for their newsletter. Find out what they're saying. Find out what their events are. And again, just about everyone has, that sign up for information on their website. So make sure you're getting in their loop so that, you're beginning to be able to have more opportunity to interface with those funders. Thank you very much. Feel free to email me any questions you have, and have a wonderful day.
And so thank you, Gina, for this wonderful community learning. I think everyone has really got a lot of great stuff from it. I want to let everyone know some upcoming, we have a session 2 for our next community learning on introductions to managing grants, setting yourself up for success, by our Deputy Director, Jeremy Ishcomer, from the National Council of Urban Indian Health next month. It's already on our website, but we will be sending out links following that, like through MailChimp and through our server list for all of you who joined today. And if you could please click on the SurveyMonkey and provide information to help us better create more topics. Maybe bringing Gina back for part 2 would be something that maybe we would want to do. So it's really short. It's like a 5-minute survey, very basic questions. It really helps us help you and help build your capacity to bring folks like Gina to maybe bring her back for another topic. So please do that. Additionally, after this survey, there will be the SurveyMonkey link will open up as soon as the Adobe room gets closed, and so that's another way if you're not unable to click on that link. And so please, if there isn't anything else, we appreciate all of your participation today. Gina, thank you so much. This was very helpful. I think a lot of people from the comments learned a lot. So keep an eye out. We will send you follow-up emails, and I hope you have a great rest of your day. Anything else, Gina, you wanted to mention?
No, but just other than, we're here to serve as a resource to you, and feel free to reach out anytime.
Okay. Thanks, everyone. stay on for taking the survey, and we appreciate your support.